Porto is an impressive city where the Douro River divides the city and runs through its stomach. Porto is the second largest city in Portugal after Lisbon. Porto is located along the Douro River estuary in northern Portugal. Welcome to GlobeTrotter. I'm Jon Haggins. I'm on top of the world and this is magical. This is Porto Cruise and Vila Gaia with a spectacular view of Porto and the Douro River. Traditionally, the wine was taken down the river in flat-bottom boats called rebelas to be stored in barrels in cellars in Vila Gaia, which is just across the river from Porto. Its settlement dates back many centuries, where it was an outpost of the Roman Empire. You know, the weather is perfect for refreshing beer in one of the cafes along the riverfront. I really know how to have a good time in this great city. These boats are a popular tourist attraction to go up and down the Douro River. Porto is magical and it's a scenic city, and these boats reflect its history. You can certainly see that I'm having the time of my life with a group of new friends. Porto is one of the oldest European centers, and it's registered as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1996. The town gave the country, meaning port wine, its very name. This is a great way to see the city and relax, sip port, and enjoy the tour. The bridge connects the city to Porto and Vila Gaia. You can often see subways crossing the bridge, as well as cars, and there's also a pedestrian walk. Mr. Eiffel designed this bridge. He's the same designer that designed the Eiffel Tower in Paris. These boats were once used to transport port wine to Porto, and now they're used as tourist attractions. This is an unbelievable experience and a romantic experience. In the 1950s and 1960s, dams were built along the river, ending this river traffic on Spanish and border sections. Today, port wine is transported in tanker trucks. Another colorful boat is passing us on the river. There's so much to see while cruising the river. I just love the architecture as it rises from the river to the top of the hills. This is an amazing scene where the roadway extends over the river. Cruising the river is a very relaxing experience. It's a great way to meet new friends from around the world. Porto is a colorful landscape. UNESCO was so right when they designated the city as a World Heritage Site. Porto is a colorful landscape. Porto is a truly painter's dream. That was a great tour of the river. Now I'm returning to land for a city tour. In the 1950s and the 1960s, dams were built along the river, ending this river traffic. Today, port wine is transported in tanker trucks. I love fado music. It's similar to American blues. It's the Portuguese version of our blues. Around every corner is another beautiful scene. As coisas vulgares que The double-decker bus is another popular tour. It takes you through the narrow cobblestone streets. Some of the charm of the city is a trolley car and the historic buildings. Charm, charm, charm is what Porto is all about. Around every corner is another treasure of the city. There are a number of Baroque churches scattered throughout the city. The bus tour continues through narrow cobblestone streets. I love the details of the old buildings. These tile facades are typical Portuguese. There are many parks and plazas scattered throughout the city. This residential area shows off a collection of beautiful homes and wide boulevards. Porto has a beach at the edge of the city where everyone is active and fit. You know, family is very important in Portugal, and they are very closely connected. There's also a lighthouse on the apex of the city. An old fort stands at the edge of the beach. This aerial view gives you a sense of Porto, the city and its heritage. Porto is a surprise and a gift of architecture. We're over the bridge and across the Douro River to Vila Gaia. And now I'm looking back at Porto and the cafes along the riverfront. Chasing wild ass. It's not what you're thinking. It's a narrative of my travel around the world. I have interspersed photos and recipes to whet your appetite and allow you to dream, discover, and rediscover these great destinations. The title came about while I was in Kutch Wild Sanctuary chasing jackasses in India. Chasing wild ass is adventure, it's culinary, it's history, and it's a lifestyle with a bit of humor to spice it up. Chasing Wild Ass, the book, is more than 500 pages exploring the world. Remember, my world is your world. So get up, get out, and travel.
I'm the mayor of the city of Porto. My name is Rui Moreira. I was elected 7 months ago. I've never been in politics before. I decided to run for the city. I was a businessman before, but I decided that it was about time that non-politicians take over the city. Porto has been doing great in recent years. I was president of the Chamber of Commerce. I think in those years as president of the Chamber of Commerce, I found out what was needed for Porto, and at the moment we are trying to improve things. And the country is, as we all know, coming out of a long crisis. It started in 2007, but we think the bad times are now gone. The spring is coming, and this is the time for the civil society to do its job. So in Porto, what we are trying to achieve is, on the one hand, to transform the city in a fertile soil for investment, for tourism, for economic activities, and also to look at the social issues. We live in a continent, Europe, where in the last 40 years the state has taken care of all the social issues. This is a time where we have to go back to the old methods, where citizens have to be concerned about social issues, and that's a very important factor for me, and that's one of the reasons why I ran, but also because I love the city, and I think this is a city which has a huge potential, not only from the point of view of culture, of tourism, with the connection with the Douro Valley, with everything we have to offer, with river and sea in a small city, which is, it is a small city, but we have the beach, we have the river, and if you go up the Douro Valley, you will find the wine, and we have very good weather. The health system in Portugal is very good, as you probably know, and we are going to try and keep that.
I'm the representative of Cellar. It's a quinta on the Lima Valley that produce organic wines by wines that you know for Vinhos Verdes. And we do that for passion. We have a slogan that is our feeling, our emotion, our devotion, your love to the wine. We do it the best way because we think that we need to take care about our vines, our vineyards, and our nature, and we do organic wines for that. So we have a quinta that wins a prize or award that calls Best of Wine Tourism in 2012, and we receive lots of tourists around the world, and we do that with much efforts, and I like it very much. We like it very much. We like the tourists. We like to receive people. We like to share people because what we have, we need to share with the world. We need to share with the people. Unfortunately, you can't see today or yesterday or tomorrow. But if you go to our website, you can see, or if you have more interest, you can see in Porto Municipio and Porto Turismo. You have all the information. You will have a small dossier that I make for you, for all of you, and you see what is our quinta.
We try to have a different cuisine. I call it Atlantic cuisine, which is a sort of mix of Mediterranean cuisine with the influence of the Atlantic, which we share with the east coast of the United States, where we have, I think, very good fish, because our waters are not very warm, where we have very good vegetables, where we have our special codfish, which is called bacalhau, which is a salted fish. We have a sort of traditional cuisine we are trying now to mesh with new ideas and with some people who have invested a lot in learning how to transform a gastronomy which was hidden in something which is healthy and which shows a little bit what is the Atlantic. I think we share the Atlantic, we share the cities of the wind, and we have a special gastronomy, and of course we have the great wines to go with it.
Cable cars rise high above Vila Gaia from the top of the hill with the best view of Porto.
A varina usa chinela, tem movimentos de gata, na canastra, a caravela.
So welcome to the Cellars. I'm Marta and I'll be your guide. Take a look at the barrels. They always have an indication of when the wine got here, which is the wine, which is the year, which is the lot, which is the quantity in liters. 8,150. This is quite a small amount of port wine. Let's approach the biggest barrel on the house, please. But I would like to drive your attention for this scale in which you can read the quantity in liters in the barrel right now. So you can see that in the right side we've got the indication of the minimum of liters, 7,150. But it's the level of the wine inside this tube on your left, and that level will tell you what is the correct number. So notice at your right side the number 54,450 That's the amount of wine actually inside the barrel. And the number 99 is something else. The number 99 on the left tells you how many barrels do we have to build the day we want to empty the big barrels. So we need 99 small barrels like those to make the transfer of the wine from this side to the other. Because the big barrels, they are only used to age rubies, because we can protect them from the oxygen here. We can maintain their color, their youth. There's only vintage to grow older. But in the Tawny family, they only age a year or two here, and then they are transferred. So in a small barrel, the wine ages by oxidation. And just like an apple exposed to the oxygen, this wine will become brown as well. This is the speciality of the house. This is what you will taste today. A 10-year-old Tawny. So we've gathered several wines that have aged average 10 years. Some are a bit more than that, some are a bit less. But let's say that 8, 9 is the minimum for a 10-year-old blend. And then younger profiles than that. But in very, very good years, we do not blend. We just take 1 year, and that is called colheita in Portuguese, harvest in English. A single harvest Tawny, in this case, from 2012. And the Portuguese law says, if it is a colheita to be produced, it has to be aged for 7 years before you can release it. So until 2019, we need to keep the wine in the house. And in 2019, we'll do the first release. What you taste is 7 years for the character of 2012. And we'll continue to bottle this wine so that you can follow the aging of a Tawny inside a barrel. We'll continue to do it until we run out of 55,000 liters. So you will see it takes some time for that to happen. And we can take this wine, if possible, if the evolution goes as we wish it to happen, we can take this wine until 50 years old of aging. So on the back label of the bottle, you could read 2062 as the bottling year, and that will give you the assurance that it's a 50-year-old Tawny that you can get. In the house, you will see colheitas from 1958, 1960, 1961, recently bottled, so showing already all this time of evolution. And what do they gain? It's the oak, it's dried fruit flavors, caramel, coffee, vanilla, honey. So time gives lots of new flavors for the old port wines. And this is the sweetest of the whites, called Lagrima, teardrop in English. So these three, and here you can see that there's an option in the reds as well for the aperitif, rosé port, which is made with red grapes, but we take out the skins and the wine becomes lighter pink, as you can see it. You can make some cocktails out of it, okay? Be creative, it's possible with a young and light port wine like this. Rubies, notice their color, dark, full-bodied. It reminds you black fruits, red fruits, forest fruits, right? So a 3-year-old blend for a ruby, the late bottled vintage, the 6-year-old one, and this is vintage growing inside the bottle. So keep it always in a horizontal position until
I'm touring Cellar Winery, where there are great treasures, lots of barrels of Porto.
It's a 10-year-old Tawny you're having today. So this is the first blend of high quality that we can do. See that there's no doubts about the average aging time of this wine. It stands here. And then, allow me, you can swirl this wine against the window to a lightened point. If you see this, this is a Tawny. A ruby really has to look like a deep red, like crushing strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, okay?
Yes, I understand.
Maybe there you've tried the sweetest of the whites, the Lagrima.
Yeah.
You're tasting the opposite now. You're tasting the white and dry, the driest of them all. Thank you, thank you. This is what we do every day, and people continue to come and meet the cellars and know how port is made.
How fantastic. What is the charge for admission for this?
It's €5 for the tour and 2 tastings like these.
How fantastic.
You can gold all of that. Take the most profit, huh? There are 45 million liters of port in this city in Gaia.
Amazing. Beautiful city.
Yes, it is, it is. It is. and it's a beautiful weather.
Oh, it's the best.
Portugal is such a small country, but for some reason, and it probably comes from medieval times, we had a lot of different influences. Also because we were seafarers, a lot of our people went abroad. They went to India, they went to Japan, they went to Thailand in the 16th century, and they came back with different influences, and some of them concentrated these influences in areas.
So this is the museum in the Cellar. We've gathered some images of the Douro Valley, the pictures you have just seen in the little movie. So you've seen that all is built into terraces, as it is shown here. This is the characteristic of all the vineyards. And then this oldest wine producing region in the world produces two different wines. Port, which you will taste today, and I'm sure that you'll have the occasion to drink a Douro wine, which is a table wine produced there. Only native grape varieties are planted here, Portuguese grapes. You've got some names written on this side. So there are 15 red grapes available, from which this Touriga Nacional, I'm sure that it rings a bell. This is the most important red Portuguese grape, and it's always blended with some others. So it's called the Portuguese blend, this idea of taking several grapes to produce one Port or one Douro. Within the whites, it's the same idea, 14 white grape varieties. Malvasia, named Malmsey in English, Muscatel, one of the most famous white grape varieties. The white wine you'll have today has a honey flavor, a finish that is characteristic from the Muscatel grape that we have used. And port, just like any fortified wine in the world, it's done with a short fermentation, by a short fermentation. To do a regular wine, it takes 7 days, 8 days, so that all the sugar is fermenting into alcohol. But port is made sometimes in 48 hours. After 48 hours of fermentation, we stop the process. We add a wine brandy with 77% of alcohol. And when the brandy is added, it makes port wine immediately sweet and higher in alcohol, between 19 and 22%. Those are the variations that you can find for port.
Porto Cruise serves the best lunch in their dining room.
For an European city, we were very lucky. We never had the big earthquake like Lisbon had. We never had the big fire like London had. We were never bombed, and we were never invaded. So that kept the city with some parts of the city are really medieval, whereas other parts of the city are extremely contemporary. Well, we have 3 Pritzker prizes in the city, 2 of them living here, born here, which shows that also the architecture has been so inviting. I think it has to do with the cosmopolitan side of a city which is a port. And if we are called Porto, Porto means harbor or port in English. So this was always a point of departure, a point of arrival. And I think that's the cosmopolitan side of the city, which makes it also too inviting, because in a small city you have so many layers of culture, so many layers of influences. You have the big parks and gardens which were built by the German community that came to Portugal in the 19th century. You have the hospitals which were built by English architects in the beginning of the 19th century and which are still there. You have the churches which were built by Italians that were in Porto in the 17th century. So I think it is this sort of mix that makes the city very fascinating, because all this happens in small quarters.
Porto is a real surprise, and around every corner is a treasure and history to be discovered. Porto is a walking city. The Talavera tile wall is very Portuguese. Nightlife in Porto is very alive.
You know, when I think of Porto and the Douro Valley, I think of wonderful romance, great wine, great food, great people, history. There's lots of history here. And When I look at this river, the Douro River, and the beautiful scenery, what else can you ask for in life? My world is your world, so remember, get up, get out, and travel!
O latido no motor de uma traineira vende sonhos e maresia, tempestades apregoam.
Join me next week for another adventure around the world. So long for now.
Seu apelido